I'm back. Hey, it's Iman from Noodles Movies, and I am home sweet home in South Florida and ready to talk to you guys about my top 10 favorite movies of 2016. This was a big year with an unprecedented number of big blockbuster tentpole movies, yet I was pretty underwhelmed by most of them. In fact, unlike most years, it was fairly easy to cut this list down to 10. So here's every movie I've seen this year so you know what we're working with, and let's get started. Here are my top 10 favorite movies of 2016. Start off the list is a movie everyone should see at least once, and maybe only once. Moonlight is a gut punch of a film. I'm glad I saw it, but I don't know if I can go on that emotional journey again. It's gripping from beginning to end, giving us a look at 3 chapters of the life of a young black man growing up in poverty and struggling with his own masculinity. As he grows older, he learns the world around him is a sinister and unforgiving place. Technically speaking, this film is a humbling experience, as first-time feature director Barry Jenkins composes and paces the film in ways that are at first unpredictable and then make total sense. And on a character level, this film speaks volumes, presenting its main character becoming a shell of a man defined by singular moments. It's easy to see why this movie is topping so many people's lists this year. My favorite animated movie of the year might also be its most criminally overlooked, Kubo and the Two Strings. I could go on for days on how mind-boggling it is that the set pieces and fantastical elements of this movie were created using physical puppets and stop motion. The movie's beautiful and awesome just to look at. It creates a phenomenally realized fantasy world that it's easy to get lost in and isn't afraid to go off the rails. It's a wonderfully straightforward tale with layered characters that's a delight for viewers of all ages, and it's a story that celebrates courage and perseverance. We all know Tom Ford's got style when it comes to clothing, but his style when it comes to filmmaking is also something worthy of praise. Nocturnal Animals is a mesmerizingly stylish movie. Tom Ford knows how to make a shot look great just as well as he knows how to make people look great. He presents this story within a story format with elegance and ferocity. The movie is expertly subtle and presents revenge in an illuminating manner. This movie is undefinable, and that's probably its greatest strength because it just seduced me the whole way through. It's a study in psychological cruelty, and it's shot beautifully. It's entertaining, complex, focused, and it offers a bombastically visceral take on the interpretation of art. Nicholas Winding Refn is quite an unconventional filmmaker, sometimes blatantly so, but I must say I was transfixed by the Neon Demon. It's so visually interesting. The neon in the title is no exaggeration, but it's also just rife with prose and metaphor about narcissism, beauty, and even this notion that it's not only the fashion industry that creates this crippling self-image insecurity, but really our culture at large. And Refn juggles these themes while having fun with the audience, never afraid to experiment different techniques and story elements to twist the conventions of the movie, kind of reminiscent of Ingmar Bergman's 1966 film Persona. There's so much here to interpret, but also so much to just gawk at. Sometimes it's surreal, sometimes it's gorgeous, sometimes it's disturbing, and many times it's more than one of those things at once. But the whole experience isn't haunting because of the blood. It's haunting because of the way it's able to so easily criticize society. Next movie on this list is, to this year, what The Revenant was for me last year. A gritty yet beautifully shot and thematically dense portrayal of one of my favorite novels brought to the screen by one of my favorite directors. Last time it was The Revenant, and this time it is Martin Scorsese's Silence. And like The Revenant, I was following this movie since I first heard it was announced. It didn't top the list like I wanted it to, but it's still such a great payoff. Silence is brutal to say the least. On the surface, it showcases the persecution of Christians in 17th century Japan, especially displaying the emotional and physical suffering that the missionaries had to endure. But it also peels back to show us the fungibility of symbols and spirituality, with Scorsese offering updated versions of the novel's themes that resonate long after leaving the theater. Almost every detail of the movie hides a deep, smuggled idea. It's a passionately crafted movie with super intense performances, and it absolutely shows that Martin Scorsese has still got it. Wow, there's so much to say about Swiss Army Man. Paul Dano, stranded on a deserted island, finds a farting corpse played by Daniel Radcliffe that he soon discovers can be used to perform a number of functions, kind of like a Swiss Army man. I really hate fart jokes, and when this movie started, I did not know how I'd be able to handle it throughout the film, but it somehow becomes easily accepted and welcoming. Of course, this film is indelibly weird and crazy, but it's not afraid to alienate in order to fully embrace itself, to find its own form of understanding. It's a consistently hilarious and somehow charming movie that along the way transforms into an exploration of the meaning of life. It's strange throughout, and it works too well, and the soundtrack is a stroke of genius, utilizing phrases previously said in the movie to create an ethereally absurd yet upbeat a cappella type background music that perfectly complements the absurdity of the events on screen. Walking into this movie, I was super skeptical, but walking out, it ended up being my favorite movie of the year at the time. Denis Villeneuve is one of the most exciting directors on the scene right now. Prisoners, Enemy, Sicario, and now Arrival. Yes, this movie deals with the building blocks of culture. Yes, it profoundly handles the motif of the fear of the unknown. And yes, it is another phenomenal Amy Adams performance on my list. This is a sci-fi movie, but almost minus the sci-fi. Louise's quest to communicate with the mysterious aliens who've landed on Earth is an ode to the importance of understanding. It's a movie about cooperation, and it eventually reveals itself to be an emotionally powerful and complex experience. The script is airtight, the performances and direction are home runs, and the editing offers this movie about learning a new language, its own cinematic language, developing its style and purpose as the nuances of the language in the movie is further discovered. Arrival is one of the most rewarding film experiences I've had in a while. When I first saw this movie, I claimed that it was one of the best horror movies I'd ever seen, and 10 months later, I still hold on to that opinion because The Witch really changed the horror movie game for me. It's a perfectly crafted horror film. A constantly tense and creepy atmosphere the entire runtime, no cheap jump scares or gross outs, just a pure, unsettling feeling throughout. The writing is superb, offering what genuinely feels like a folktale, and the historical form of dialogue which the writer apparently spent months studying 17th century New England texts to accurately portray, is seamlessly used in the movie to marvelous effect. It's an incredibly well-acted movie as well, with the tension building between the family mirroring the evil stirring around them. First-time feature director Rupert Eggers does a phenomenal job at utilizing his set to provoke symbolism for each of the characters, and he does an even better job at masterfully pacing this horror movie gem. This might slightly throw you off, but the only movie in 2016 that was more nightmarish to me than The Witch was Jackie. This movie just feels gothic in the way that it handles grief and death. The assassination of JFK is a topic that I've always been super interested in, yet it's the least fascinating part of this super fascinating movie. Instead, Jackie Kennedy's subsequent ordeals are the focus of the film as she comes to terms with his death and how she presents herself in the wake of the tragic event. Natalie Portman's sensationally moving performance and Pablo Larraín's careful yet daring direction allow us to get to know multiple sides of this enigmatic woman. From the brave face that she puts on in public to the intimate fragility she bears when in isolation. The movie expertly utilizes score and silent imagery to get under your skin, and some of these scenes are just hypnotizing, from the visual composition to the way Jackie Kennedy begins to create a mythology about her experiences. Jackie is a stunning portrayal of grief and celebrity that's both jarring in its realism and feverishly impactful in its presentation. From the moment this movie started, I had a huge smile on my face, and from the moment it ended, I just had to tell everyone I could just how special this movie is. La La Land is truly a magical movie. The first 5 minutes of this movie is one of the best film openings I've ever seen, an intricate yet exuberant long-take music number that introduces the movie perfectly. And then the whole movie persists in keeping this exceptional feeling. It's lightning in a bottle. The electric chemistry between Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling really sells the premise, and the beautiful blast of color, wonderful musical numbers, homages to old Hollywood, effective comedy, and dazzling set pieces keep you strapped in throughout. It's a modern fairy tale, but also true to life, displaying a raw love story through the lens of a story about dreamers. La La Land is an ode to dreamers, endeavoring to show us that while it may take hard work and bitter sacrifice to reach our destinations, every choice along the way is up to the dreamer. And yet it's also a film about painful truth, offering emotional catharsis along the way of this visionary masterpiece. It's a film that feels as old as cinema itself, yet it boasts a youthful energy. It's an inspiring movie, a truthful movie, an entertaining movie, an emotional movie. It's euphoric, devastating, tantalizing, hypnotizing, upbeat, gorgeous, masterful, and fantastical. There were so many different feelings I had throughout as the story went on, yet it never felt manipulated. It was always organic because, frankly, La La Land is one of the best and most enjoyable movies I've seen in the past few years, and is, without a doubt, my favorite movie of 2016. So there you have it. Those are what I consider to be the 10 best movies of 2016. A couple of honorable mentions that maybe could have almost made the cut are Manchester by the Sea, a movie that feels like you're really eavesdropping on the grief that a family is feeling, super poignant and restrained, and has the best performance of the year by Casey Affleck. Doctor Strange, sort of a breath of fresh air for the superhero genre with unique visuals and action. Midnight Special, another competent outing by Jeff Nichols, boasting big sci-fi elements but refusing to be sci-fi. It's ambitious, soulful, and mysterious. Knight of Cups, a film that I still don't fully understand after having seen it twice, but I still do get that Terrence Malick is displaying visual poetry that I think acts as an introspective on excess. And The Handmaiden. Park Chan-wook is an unapologetically masterful filmmaker. The movie's technically brilliant and riveting, but the craft is there and it's undeniable, but the appeal is subjective. So that's it. Like I said, it was actually pretty easy to cut this list down to 10. There weren't that many movies that I loved this year as opposed to previous years. Anyway, as I go back to Washington, D.C., Noodles movies will again be put on hold. If you haven't yet, you can indulge yourself by watching the new teaser trailer for my next film, Guess 2, or you can watch my series of videos counting down my 100 favorite movies of all time. Or neither. You don't have to. I guess you can do whatever you want. See you in the next Noodles review.